Welcome to Nano Podcast. This is a family podcast where we discuss everyday family issues. Please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast.
In troubled families, abuse and neglect are permitted. It's like talking about them that is forbidden. This is a quote by Marcia Sirota. We'll be discussing about families. This was single parent, both parents. Sometimes we said that parenting is hard. But when you say something like that, it does not mean that parents will use it as an example to be a toxic and mean to their children. When you talk about human development and personality, parents play an integral role in it. The relationship you have with your child as a parent will make a big impact in his or her personal development. Whether the child is being raised by a single or both parents, the attitudes of the parents to the child on a daily basis will help in raising the child mentally. When you're raising a mentally strong individual, sometimes it can go both ways. It can go the other way. You're raising a fragile and disturbed and emotionally damaged individual.
Yeah, that's true. And in our last podcast, we made mention that every parent wants to raise a successful child, be it in academics, daily activities, life in general. But there are things that some parents do maybe unintentionally to their children that tend to do more harm than good to their child, emotionally and psychologically.
Yeah, when parents when they become so mean, when they become toxic, when they start exhibiting that toxic behavior to their children, sometimes they can say that they do it unknowingly. Maybe they are not trying to hurt their children, or they're not trying to make them feel bad or something. You get me? So when they start exhibiting those attitude, sometimes they might say that due to frustration. Like I said before, ignorant of their behavior. They can make the life of people around them difficult, especially their children. When you look at the effect this might have on a child on a daily basis, it can be a good or bad effect depending on the child's mental state. I only keep on saying mental state because there are children that are like
they can cope with everything.
Anything that comes their way.
But there are children that are not able to handle that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's children that have that mental strength. They are really strength. They can take anything. They can sustain anything. Whatever that happens, they come their way. You understand what I mean? Mm-hmm. They are strong. They can take all that. While there are some of them that are fragile. They are like, they affect them a lot, psychologically or emotionally.
Yeah. So moving on from that, let's look at ways parents can exhibit toxic behavior to their children. One of them is name calling by parents. Sometimes your child won't be able to do what a parent told them to do. They might be complacent in their actions, and their parents would probably be angry at them to the extent of name calling their children. Let's say, for instance, you send your teenager to go and buy something for you at the shop, and the teenager went to play instead of going to buy the thing that their parent told them to get. And when he or she goes to play, sometimes they'll end up losing their money that the parent gave them. So when they come back empty-handed, the parent out of annoyance would start causing and calling them names. Then they can use offensive words to them like, "I don't know who gave birth to you. I wish you were never born. I wish I could have killed you during childbirth. If I aborted your pregnancy, it could have been better for me than having an ugly, useless, stupid child like you."
Those are harsh words. Mm-hmm. Those, like I said earlier, might be true ignorance. Might be it's just that they are very angry. They cannot control their emotions. They can say whatever they want to say to their children. But saying such things is very, very, I think it's too harsh. Mm-hmm. It's so cruel. When parents behave that way, I said to you, most times out of anger, they will say those selfish wishes is selfish wishes to the child. Do you get me? Those words, they're hurtful. It can just like, how will I say, it can be imprinted in the child's mind. Do you understand?
Mm-hmm.
How can you tell a child that I wish I've killed you during pregnancy? I wish you are not born. Do you get me? Those are bad words. I don't know who gave birth to you. Those are harsh words that some parents they give to their children. Do you understand? And most times those children will take those kind of words with them. It rings over and over in their head on a daily basis. Do you understand? It's so harsh. So the teenager sometimes, when he says such things to them, sometimes you see them start crying because they cannot hold it. They start crying. And in some African homes, crying is no. Especially when your parents is scolding you or talking to you. Do you understand? You cannot cry. And when you cry, that's what? A double punishment. Because they're gonna beat you up on top of that. Crying. They're gonna lie. Do you understand what I mean? Why you cry? The teenager will be beaten thoroughly for crying. So you start wondering why so many children are having insecurity issues, especially, like I said to you, in some African homes. Understand me? It might be happening as well in some other ethnicities, but I'm from Africa. I'm just saying what I experience or what I notice or what I see that is happening around me. Do you understand what I mean? So those are the things that you see. It's so I don't know. It's so cruel. Mm-hmm. Especially calling teenager child that you're useless. It's so bad.
Yeah, it is. And moving on from that to sarcastic and provocative questions to actions. A child being a child might not notice their behavior. And maybe they'll walk a certain way, talk a certain way, or might look a bit different. And the parent will never seize a moment to remind them of how they walk or talk or look a bit different. They could say, why do you walk like that? Why do you talk like that? Those kinds of words are offensive and degrading to the child. And it could degrade them mentally and physically as well.
Some of them you will say, like I said to you earlier, they might say that it's out of anger or out of ignorance that they're saying those things, that they don't mean it. That their intentions were not meant to hurt the child's feelings. But these kind of things can lead to children having that low esteem personality. Do you understand? Because you finish their personality straight away. You already killed their confidence. Do you understand? When you're looking at your daughter, your son, you have to understand something. Every child is different. They have their own way of doing things. Mm-hmm. You understand? Maybe the way the child is walking or the way he's talking, all those kind of things, it might be irritating sometimes. Do you understand? Yes. Like I said to you, the parent might not say those kind of things just to hurt the child. Maybe they're telling that child to stop the way he or she is doing some things he's doing in order to correct them. Do you understand? But with the way you say it sometimes might not reflect on what you have in mind. I don't know if you understand what I mean. The way you say it to the child might be degrading. And by so doing, and you keep on saying that, keep on repeating it most times, every time, you see the child start having that low esteem. Might be feeling that there's something wrong with him. Yeah. Do you understand? That there's something wrong with them. Maybe they are not, I don't know, they're handicapped or something. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So those kind of things, yeah, it's like you said as well, it's degrading and it can make the child to have that emotional or physical.
Yeah.
This new said about, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And 3, forcing your child to be what they don't want to be. I understand that a parent wants the best for his or her child, and most times they can take it to the extreme, to the extent of forcing their children onto something. For example, you see some parents telling their children that I want you to study law. It's law or nothing, or it's doctor or nothing. without considering the child's capability and emotions. This is cruel and hurtful to the child because they could be able to do something. Maybe they have a passion for something else, or they're very good at something else, but they just don't know it.
Yeah, but I think many families, especially you said as well, many families in Africa that raised from an African home. You understand? I don't know what is wrong with being a lawyer and doctor. They just like those two professions. It's something that mostly an average African family wants their children to be. They want their children to be a lawyer. They want their children to be a doctor. Do you understand what I mean? And they put a lot of pressure on them to be that, without even knowing if their child have that capacity to be a doctor or have a capacity to be a lawyer, because those courses are not easy courses. Do you understand? I understand that sometimes it comes with respect. Okay? Yeah, my son is a lawyer, or my daughter is a barrister, my daughter is a doctor. Do you get me? It comes with that respect. Mm-hmm. Especially like I said to you, in African homes. Do you understand? Yes. But there are other courses, there are other professions that are out there that can elevate you. If you watch now, most times if you see in Africa, you can see a lot of children. They are now into music. When we were growing up, it wasn't really like that. Do you understand? It was just a lawyer, or a doctor, mm-hmm. engineer. Now most of them are going into the soccer, music. Yes, a lot of IT, basketball, different. There's a lot of options. Do you understand? So, but that is what happens. And most importantly, it's not really about being a doctor or lawyer. Sometimes the parents, how will I say, they're forcing their children to be what, do you understand, what they don't really want to be. Mm-hmm. And that is what we are discussing here. Understand me? So if you find out that affect those children, by then, some of those children, if you see that when you force them to do those stuff, sometimes they go to school. Being in school, they be lying to their parents. Mm-hmm. They might not even going to study those courses.
They could be doing something else.
Doing something else. Why they are lying to their parents? Yeah. They're wasting those years in school. Do you understand what I mean? Then they still come back to start afresh, to go back to what they wanted to do. Those kind of things is not right. So, but I think it's best thing to find out if what the parent or what the child is interested in, to nourish it, to support them. Do you understand what I mean? Find out what they are interested in, find out what they are good at, then you support them and then push them along with it. Yeah.
And the last one, 4, selfish and inhuman comparison. What people forget to understand is that we're all different in our own ways, whether it be physical and how we look, or inside or mental well-being. Mm-hmm. And when people start comparing their children to one another, comparing them to their cousins, saying things like, why are you not like your cousins? Why don't you act like them? Or why don't you act like your siblings? They do well in school. They do well in this or that. Mm-hmm. You don't look like me or your mother. Who do you look like? What do you expect the child to say?
That's what I'm saying. You know, I keep on reiterating it. Sometimes parents say things out of anger. They say things out of emotions. They say things out of ignorance. Okay. But all of this is not an excuse. Do you understand what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's not. Whoever he is, once you're a parent, is supposed to control your emotions sometimes. Do you understand what I mean? Yeah. There are some words that you say to someone, especially your children, that I said earlier is imprinted in their mind. They will never forget it. No matter what it is, no matter how you try to buy them back with money or shower them with gift and everything, they will never forget it because it's already inside there. Understand? When whatever the child did, when you said to the child that, yeah, who do you even look like? You don't look like me or your mother. What do you expect the child? He asked me, what do you expect the child to do? Do you get me? And the child is not, even if the child was adopted or whatever.
That will even make it worse.
Do you understand? Say, why did you pick the child on the street? Do you understand? But you are at the end, you know it's your child, right? So then sometimes you said already their children are different. When you have one or two children at home, they are all different from each other. The same way their faces are not the same. Even they have twins. The two twins, sometimes they might look identical, but they're still different.
Yeah. The way they act.
Yeah, the way they act, maybe the way they talk. One might be taller than the other. They look different. So the way they will act will be different. Do you understand? Comparing both of them, or comparing your siblings, the children, to each other, the siblings, comparing your children to their cousins, comparing other. Understand me? That is not. It's not ideal. It's not good, because those people, all of them, are different. Do you understand what I mean? Those are toxic behaviors parents do sometimes, especially when they're angry. Sometimes you can see parents, they are very angry. Maybe they're angry, or maybe their partner made them angry, or maybe their partner left them. So whenever they see the child, they remember their partner that left them. Do you understand? Maybe they're divorced. Do you understand what I mean? So whenever they see that child, they remember their partner that left them. So they use the anger on the child. And when they do that, that's when you see they start using those names. They start calling names, all those kind of things. And sometimes when you see some of the parents, they think maybe the child is a burden to them. That if not because they have a child, they might maybe somewhere else, or maybe they could progress, or they make more money. Or sometimes maybe the parent in question have that child when they were still young, and they will, whenever they see that child, that anger will come out. Then the feeling that the child is one that made them not to progress, to be whatever they want. Do you understand? Those are the things that affect emotionally, and they use that to pour the anger on those children. And by so doing, you see them calling them names. And the name calling is something that those children will carry with them. They grow. And it's affecting, especially. You see them, most of them, they can't even look into your face when they're talking to you, because they don't have that low esteem, right? There's no confidence. They cannot talk to you. They cannot. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
They're always scared. So those are the things. So when we talk about many people being raised in a toxic environment, where parents can do and say whatever they want to and get away with it. You know what I mean? I remember back in the days when I was growing up, there are some of my mates, let's just say age mates, that most of them, you see them, they go to school, they come back from school, they're hungry. When you go to Africa, they don't give you food at school. It's not like here in Europe, where you have food at home. If you go to school, they will serve you food, right? Back home, some schools you don't eat. So when you go to school and come back in the afternoon, you're hungry. Getting home, some parents will just tell them immediately, give them stuff to go and sell in the market. They will start hawking. Some of them will even go with their school uniform. You see them on the street hawking to sell, maybe vegetables, eggs, or whatever they have, they're selling in the house. They're still doing it. Even to today, some of them still doing it. Some families are still doing those stuff. And most of those children, some of them, they have homework. They will not do the homework. And when they go in, you see some of their parents will tell them, okay, when you're leaving home with this, if you don't finish selling them, don't come back. And if you don't finish selling them, there will not be any food for you to eat tonight. And you see that some of them, they will go to sleep on an empty stomach. Do you understand what I mean? So those are inhuman actions from parents. You might call it toxic. But some of them are so mean. Even if the child is not yours. Do you understand? Because some parents will go maybe to take their nephew or their niece to stay with them. They start treating them as if maybe those people are nothing. Do you understand what I mean? Some treat their children the same way. It's inhuman. It's not right. It's still happening till today. So those are the things that you see when parents behave in that way. Those toxic is a toxic behavior affecting those children even to their, like when they to their adult age. It's affect them so much,
Yeah. So when you look at a healthy relationship between a parent and a child, most times it's not there. But when there is a healthy relationship between a parent and a child, it helps in the child's overall growth.
Yeah, it helps in the child's overall growth. When there is that relationship, when there is understanding, when there is love, when there is harmony in a home, you see that the child wants to go home because there's peace in that house. Do you understand? But when the parents are toxic, when there is no harmony in that home, they prefer to stay outside than going home. Do you understand what I mean? So, but what we're saying is that we keep on saying the same thing every time. No parent is a better parent than another. Yeah. All you have to do is just try and do your best. Try and do your best and be the best you can. Do you get me? Control your emotions as a parent, especially when your children are around. No matter whatever they do, remember that when you start calling them names or when you're comparing them to others, when you, because of you're angry and all that, you lay curses on them, you say things that you're not supposed to say. Words cannot just go out empty because once it's out there, you can't bring it back. Do you understand what I mean? So you need to control their emotions, control how you talk to your children, and just know that those children, they knows when a parent put them first. They know when the parent make them their priorities.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's true. Thank you for staying with us till the end.
And don't forget that family is everything.
Thank you.
Thank you.